Welcome, everybody. It's to another edition of Pants Optional. It's Pop Code HQ's Zoom interview feature where we chat with comic book creators about their projects and get the lowdown, but from the waist up. I'm TahoeJBennett, chief editor, writer at Pop Code HQ. Today, I'm joined by Roye Okupe. He's an award-winning filmmaker, author, speaker, entrepreneur. He's also the owner and creative director at YouNeek Studios, where he's a creator and writer of such characters and books as EXO, The Legend of Wale Williams, Malaika, Warrior Queen, Ayanu, and Windmaker, all of which comprise of the YouNeek universe, a universe filled with superheroes and fantasy stories inspired by African history, culture, and mythology. So please welcome Roye Okupe. Roye, welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. I must say that was a super intro. I wonder if I can clip that and just send it to anybody out there that wants to interview me. Hey, just play this clip before I come on. But that was great. That was great. Love it.
Your personal tagline. Like we were talking off camera, I really took a deep dive into your YouNeek universe. I love everything about it. It's not just not just superheroes, and it's not just about inspiration and empowerment. It's also about showcasing Nigerian artists who are maybe getting the spotlight. So there's a lot involved, and it really makes, and they're all graphic novels too. Where it's I think Ayanu is a little over 100 pages, but the others like 200, 300 plus pages. And the visuals are beautiful. I mean, it's just so well rounded and packed. Love what you're doing there, and let the viewers know. Last year in 2021, Dark Horse struck a deal with Roye and YouNeek Studios to produce the original graphic novels with additional bonus material. Like there was concept art and sketches, Q&A with you, historical information. Nice page setup at Dark Horse. Looks like a really great deal you have with them. What's it like being under their banner, and how does that look going forward in your new books, where the early ones prior to Dark Horse were crowdfunded, and now you have a publisher who's giving you allowing you to keep full creative control as well in producing the future of the YouNeek universe?
I mean, it's an exciting time for me personally. I've always, from far away at least, loved Dark Horse and everything that you're doing. Obviously, they're, top 3, top 5, whatever you want to call it, publishers in terms of comics in the world. So it was a monumental achievement for me to be able to actually partner with them on not just one book, but a 10-book deal, which it's unheard of, and it just goes to show just the what Dark Horse stands for. And a lot of companies talk about diversity and talk about, okay, we need to add more Black creators and more people of color, but Dark Horse investing in 10 books and saying that this is something that we want to do for the long term, I think should be celebrated. It's personally exciting for me, and to get a chance to, as a creator, not just focus on creating as opposed to thinking about publishing, marketing and all those. Not that I'm not good at those things, but I feel like
those jobs are usually, it's best that you have other people running those so that you can focus on those. But when you're taking it all on yourself, I'm sure it's a huge weight off your shoulders.
It is a huge weight, but some people like that. Some people like that control of doing it all on their own. And for a season, I did like that control of being able to do everything by myself. But what I'm trying to build with the YouNeek universe is something that's a little bit bigger than one person can control, right? So for me, I'm really trying to make an impact with these stories that are inspired by African history, culture, and mythology, but also build a very wide and deep, compelling, vast world that includes characters that anybody from any part of the world can be not just entertained and inspired and educated by, but see themselves in. And I think it's something we've been able to accomplish with our different titles. But the Dark Horse deal now gives me the legitimacy, the resources to be able to push this into the next level, and really, really take this as far as I've always envisioned it.
And that's great that you're allowed the, your wings to be able to do that. And like you said, that such a big name publisher took, what many might say like a big chance
Right.
but they really embraced this, and
Yes.
and which is great, because I mean we're at a time right now in the comic book industry where diversity and inclusion is probably at the best time it's ever been.
Right.
Maybe we're not fully where we should be, but we're
Exactly. Yeah.
definitely better than we've ever had been.
Yeah.
So this really puts a stamp on it
Yeah.
when you have Dark Horse's name attached to it,
Yeah.
and for them as well, for them
Yeah.
to show their commitment
Yeah.
to bringing more stories to other cultures,
Yeah.
and to like you're saying, for other people to see themselves in these characters.
Yeah, and if I may say something real quick, it
Sure.
also goes beyond that, right? So there's a reason why manga and anime was so successful in the early 2000s, late 90s, right? It was just something different that came out of Japan, and as a global audience and people that love pop culture and animation and comics and books, the entire world embraced that, because it's like, wow, this is something different. I've never seen this before. So it wasn't like anime and manga was just for people of Asian descent. It was for the world. And that's what I'm trying to do with my characters, is that yes, we are very proud of the history and culture and the mythology that we're integrating into these characters. But at the core of these stories, they're just great stories with compelling characters that anybody can look into a different world, like peek into somewhere, a location that you've never seen before, and be enthralled by it, and be exposed to things that you didn't know about the continent growing up, or debunking stereotypes that you've only seen on mainstream media. So I think, and I hope that I can make the same effect, but at the same time really, really want to stress that these are stories that are for everybody.
Definitely, and the visuals are breathtaking.
Appreciate
Ayanu blew me away. Something with the
Yeah.
illustrations and the colors,
Yeah.
it adds a whole nother layer to the mood and the tone.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, and these books too. This shared universe is set in West Africa.
Yeah.
It contains a lot of entertaining, compelling stories, like we're saying, but
Yeah.
it's also filled with inspiration, and despite all the accolades that these books have received in the past, and Dark
Yeah.
Horse's recognition, despite all that, a
Yeah.
lot of what you do and YouNeek Studios, it's making that connection with the reader and making an impact
Exactly.
with what you create. Is that
Yes.
a fair statement?
No, yeah, it's a perfect way to describe it. Whether I'm doing comic books, animation, whatever the case may be, I always want to really, really allow people to see themselves in my characters, no matter where they're from. So for instance, let's take Malika Warrior Queen, for instance, it's a historical fantasy story that's set in the pre-colonial West Africa, and the story follows Malika, who is queen of this empire called Azaz, and there's a lot of expansion, but expansion comes with a cost, and that cost is, both internal and external threats that she has to deal with. And for Malika, her greatest challenge is trying to decide, when do I be a warrior versus when do I be a queen? Because those two things don't necessarily always mesh, right? So in one instance, it's like, is it diplomacy or do I go for war? Do I, try to be friendly, or do I stand up for my people and make sure that nobody, harms them? And I think it's that juxtaposition of titles that all of us can sort of relate to, right? So am I a soccer mom, or am I a business owner, right? Or am I a husband, or, am I a writer? Like, so a lot of times these things don't necessarily flow with one another, and as humans, it's our job to figure out, how do we become great at both? How do we not let one of these things suffer, and how do we sort of carry these different roles with pride, and at the same time not let one of them sort of like overshadowed the other one. So at its core, that's really what the story I'm trying to tell with Malika. Although, like I said, if you read fantasy books, you see all the fantastical things like dragons and magical swords. So all that's in there, but at its core, it's really a human story that I feel like anybody can relate to.
Definitely, and it definitely comes out in all four of the books that I looked through.
Right.
And one of the appealing things that I appreciate is that all of these were, well, they were originally kickstarted,
Yes.
and they were crowdfunding campaigns,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
successful, and very popular. Got a lot of recognition from news organizations,
Yeah.
globally recognized, critically
Yeah.
acclaimed. Um, but what I appreciated was the graphic novel aspect, that you had these extra pages to really flesh out these characters, where single issues would have made that a longer process to
Yeah.
develop and run them out. Will future books with Dark Horse follow that same blueprint, which seems like an aspect of its appeal, being able to, it really get to know that character and their journey as you read through the book.
Yeah, personally for me, I've always, preferred OGNs, versus floppies. Not that I don't read floppies, but to me,
Sure.
getting a chance to really dive deep into a world and a story over the course of 100 plus pages is something that I feel like in this day and age in binge culture, a lot of people want to see, right? And for somebody like me who isn't, sort of like well, I can't call myself a new writer anymore because I've been doing this for over 6 years. But when I first started out, I wanted to give people a chance to really see my body of work in a larger volume, as opposed to, taking a chance on a floppy and reading 20 pages and just deciding, well, this isn't for me. I wanted people to get a chance to see an entire arc. And I feel like it worked out for me perfectly because the comic book space is very competitive. There's so many great writers, artists, and books and stories out there. Is that sometimes you only get one chance with a reader to be able to hook them in. To answer your question, yes, moving forward, that is the preferred format that's going to be coming up with Dark Horse.
Okay.
Moving forward. And just to clarify real quick, so we kickstarted a bunch of books, Malika EXO and Iyanu, pre-Dark Horse. So our 10-book deal covers Dark Horse sort of republishing the first 5 graphic novels. Some of those graphic novels were joined into omnibus volumes. Like, so Malika, for instance, when I self-published it, I had part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. What Dark Horse did, they put part 1 and part 2 together for that to become Dark Horse Volume 1 of Malika, and part 3 and part 4 together to become Volume 2 for
I noticed
that.
that on the Dark Horse digital site. They did that with the EXO as well, too, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So, but I also wanted to let people know that if you've never heard about YouNeek Studios or read any of these books, this is probably the best way to absorb that content, because not only do you get a lot of story, but you also get a lot of bonus materials. There's Q&A, there's sketches, there's concept art, there's chapter breaks where I talk about this is what inspired this and this is what inspired that. But at the same time, if you're an old reader, it's a collector's edition because this is something new, right? There's also new meat, new there, in Iyanu, there's like a whole epilogue that wasn't in the original book that I put in the Dark Horse version. So for new and old fans, alike, the Dark Horse, republished editions are excellent. And I can't wait now, going into April, we're going to release our first new material with the WINDMAKER Volume One, which was never self-published. You can't find anywhere. There's no old version. So I'm really excited for again, new and old fans alike to see what now we're going to be coming with in the future with the Dark Horse deal.
Oh, definitely. I know. I'm excited for it. I already looked. It's available for pre-order now.
Yes,
It's coming
exactly.
out Wednesday, April 20th. It
Yes.
will be out Tuesday, April 19th at bookstores and online retailers like
Yes.
Penguin Random House, Amazon, Barnes and
Yes.
Noble, Books A Million, Indigo. Dark Horse usually has them all set up there, all the links. You can just
Exactly.
pre-order. I'm sure, I would imagine they're going to print versions will be available at
Yep.
TFAW, Things for Another World.
Yep.
So that's definitely something to get excited about. We definitely want to keep all the pre-order info. We'll put that up here in the graphics. And not only that, all these books, and correct me if I'm wrong, I only saw a little bit of this. These are all stories building towards an event. encompassing all of them entitled Dolores.
Yeah, I can't talk too much. I can neither confirm nor deny that right now. But I think if you've read you know, any of our books past, you know, if you've read at least one or two of them, you can clearly see what I'm trying to do. It's a connected universe. But the way I like to write my stories is that each individual series, it's onto itself, right? So if you just read Malika and nothing else, you would enjoy that story. You don't need to read anything else. If you read just EXO and nothing else, you will enjoy that story. Where it gets interesting is when you start to read all these different series, Ianu, EXO, the Windmaker coming up, and Malika. You get to see the threads and see how loosely these things are joining together. And hopefully sometime in the future, we get to see all these characters, you know, all in one book. But like I said, I can neither confirm nor deny that right now.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I know it's early on too. You know, I know from the very first pages I saw of EXO, EXO just hits you hard right immediately.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
bursts on
exactly.
the scene, takes on the
Yeah,
dreads. It's
yeah,
hit with such impact. It
yeah,
instantly established itself as something
yeah,
different,
yeah,
something powerful, something you not only notice but get excited for immediately.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
definitely want to direct fans to go to the YouNeek Studios website where you know, you can easily spend a couple hours absorbing all the content from its inception on, the
Yeah,
growth of the company. You
yeah,
can learn more about the characters, the
yeah,
universe as a whole.
yeah.
Plus, if you sign up and subscribe for exclusive updates, you can also score over 100 pages of unique comics for free.
Free. Yep, exactly.
And 100 pages, that'll keep you busy, you know,
Yeah.
and I promise you, after 100 pages, you're going to be hooked. You're going to be want to place your pre-orders for this April.
Yeah.
You know, let me ask you something. I know with the timing of the Dark Horse thing, this may not have affected, but it may have. So I was curious about it. You know, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, a lot of things changed, especially in the comic book industry. Had a lot of you know, publishers shut down,
Mm-hmm.
creators go the crowdfunding route, something that
Mm-hmm.
at that time you were already what, 5, 6, 7 years
Yeah,
experience at.
exactly. Yeah.
Uh, but did the pandemic have any beneficial or detrimental impact on what you're developing for the unique universe?
I think initially it did have a detrimental impact because, you know, we were all in, you know, in just like in shock about everything. So nobody knew what to expect. So I think everybody went into some version of panic mode in terms of what's going to happen, what do I do? And I think at early on, I might have made some decisions that maybe were just reactionary as opposed to feeling like, okay, this is the right thing to do. But thankfully, one of the things that actually happened, like right smack in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, I actually took a risk because if you notice, a lot of people stopped going to Kickstarter to actually, you know, fund their books because they were worried that, well, it's a pandemic, nobody's going to want to back any project. So a lot of people pulled off Kickstarter. And for me, I always try to, in my career, I've always tried to see, you know, when people ebb, I try to flow, right? So I decided that this actually might be the best time because everybody's just at home, you know, doing nothing. So I put out Ianu on Kickstarter, and it became the highest, you know, Kickstarter that the highest funded Kickstarter that I ever did, and that was Ianu was my 10th and last Kickstarter. That's the last one that I did.
Right.
Oh, excuse me, second to the last, not the last one that I did. And yeah, it was the ninth, because I've done 10 Kickstarters now. It was the ninth, and it was the highest I've ever made on Kickstarter. And that just gave me the momentum to really just double down and go into just creation and like, okay, we may be in a pandemic, but I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to continue to build this universe. And yeah, that was for me. It was another, I believe, another signal that Dark Horse had seen that, okay, this guy is, you know, keeps on going. I think it might have played a role into their decision. I don't know, but I think yeah, I think early on it was very, very tough for me, just like everybody else. But as soon as I just went into it and just decided to just pretty much go for it, regardless of whatever was happening around me, things started to pick up from there.
We've touched on it on a couple previous episodes with other creators where it seems like Well, yeah, they would have more money to spend on Kickstarters because they're not going to conventions to spend money. They're not meeting you
Yeah,
in person to buy it.
yeah,
You know, they can't go to their comic store. So
right.
how are they going to
Yeah,
get comics?
yeah,
So yeah, you know, yeah, it was that weird intersection and how to figure out maneuvering, you know,
yeah.
forward through it. But speaking of conventions, uh, they're really starting to resume again with things being mandates being dropped and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of extra precautions. Both New York
Yeah,
and San Diego have done a great job
yeah.
at keeping the public safe during this time. And with your Dark Horse deal, do you have any plans to make any convention appearances as of yet, or perhaps like in conjunction with the future release? Is that anything that you and Dark Horse have planned?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm open to now that things are slowly, beginning to get back to normal. Although I don't think we'll ever get back to normal, but there's going to be a new normal.
Normal.
But yeah, it's something that I'm open to if I'm invited or to speak or be on a panel or book signings, whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's something that I'm, definitely open to.
Okay, well, hey, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you one last opportunity here before we close, since you have an upcoming book. Windmaker Volume One is coming
Yeah,
Wednesday, April 20th, Tuesday,
yes,
April 19th in
yeah,
bookstores.
yeah.
And I just want to give you the opportunity to pitch your project and get people excited to get their pre-orders in and
Sure.
expand, you know, see the expansion of the YouNeek universe.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the YouNeek universe is that it has different entry points, right? So just because, we've released with Dark Horse now, I believe, Malika Volume 1, 2, Ianu Volume 1, EXO Volume 1 and 2. So we've released about, 5 books now. If you've never heard of anything and you want to just try something, you can start with the Windmaker. It doesn't have any previously required reading, to that. And the story pretty much follows our a titular character who is the Windmaker. But the cool thing is that there was a legendary Windmaker 500 years ago, and he gets reincarnated in our hero Bo. But the twist is that the country is going through a very terrible phase where they had a president that was very beloved and he turned into a dictator. But now this Windmaker, this epic champion of the country of Atala, which is a fictional West African nation that I created, this champion returns in our hero, but he's like the head of security for for the dictator. So it creates this very weird position where the person that's supposed to save us is working with the person trying to destroy us. And that's how the story sort of kicks off. So I think it's very compelling. It's not something that you really see in everyday superhero stories. It really touches on very very compelling plots and arcs and character growth, one of which is the cost of blind loyalty. And I think that's something that we should all be aware of, is that we need to be careful who we're loyal to, and blind loyalty can sometimes be a detriment not to ourselves but everybody around us. Like, we all need to have our eyes wide open to the people that we support and make sure that we can call them out when they're doing something wrong. So yeah, juxtapose that with crazy powers to manipulate the wind, and different fantastical and sci-fi elements. We actually have a floating palace in this book as well, so there's a lot of entertaining things in there. Like I said, this is a book that I feel like is very unique and it's something that a lot of people have never seen before.
You know, and just real quick, I didn't jot it down. I didn't think to at the time, but how many pages is Windmaker?
The
I
Windmaker
know
is,
we've had
yeah,
the other ones in the 200, 300
yeah,
range.
this is about, yes, about 150 pages. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
you're gonna get a lot of story in that, like you always do with our unique books. It's going to be value for your money. It's going to be, like I said, a great ride for anybody who is interested in experiencing something new and something unique in comic books.
definitely experiencing something unique. Definitely, you would definitely want to check out YouNeek Studios online, on their website, across social media. Stay up on Dark Horse on all their social media for any updates, and get your pre-orders in now for Windmaker Volume One, coming from Dark Horse and YouNeek Studios. Available Wednesday, April 20th, Tuesday, April 19th in bookstores. Thank you for taking the time, man. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm excited for everything that you're bringing to not only Dark Horse, but to the comic book world.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. A lot of fun talking with you, and hopefully we get to do it again sometime soon.
Definitely, definitely. We'll have to, definitely.